going on? Chef Tramel here, and first off, I want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for joining me. So this is a brand new series. It's called Maintenance Mondays, and what I want to go over with you guys is I want to go over the daily maintenance, that I do to keep my kitchen equipment, my kitchen tools, and things that I find useful on an everyday basis. How to keep those up and really take care of them so that they last as long as possible. So for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to be doing what I call Maintenance Mondays. And the first one that I wanted to start off with was one that's really dear to my heart, and it's about your knives. I wanted to do this one first because this is probably one of the most used tools in the kitchen. At least in mine it is, right? So I use my knife every single day. It doesn't matter if I'm chopping vegetables, if I'm chopping meat, just so many things that I use my knife for. And so that's what kind of inspired this video, because I get a lot of questions on how do I keep my knives sharp, how do I take care of my knives, things like that. So I wanted to go over some of my processes of how I keep my knives sharp, how I keep them ready to go, and just give you guys some tips and tricks, right? So one thing about knives, over time knives dull. I think everybody knows that. And the last thing that you want to do in the kitchen is use a dull knife, because it's the worst. It's going to make your cuts look terrible. It's going to, make you work harder, and it's actually more dangerous, right? So getting away from using a dull knife is relatively simple, and it's just about taking care of your knife. I know a lot of people will sharpen their knives like this, and we call this a steel. Some have diamonds, they're a little bit flatter, and it's the process of just running your knife up and down this, to get a sharper edge, right? Now, what I want you guys to understand is this actually doesn't sharpen your knife. What this does is it actually hones your knife. And what the honing rod does is it straightens the metal out. So over time, as you use your knife, your metal begins to spur, and it ends up falling apart like that. So I don't know if you guys can see my hand right there, but what happens is when you hone it, it knocks the metal back into place. So it's not actually sharpening it. What it's doing is it's knocked the metal back in place. Once it knocks the metal back in place, it seems like you have a sharper edge, and it cuts a lot better, because it does. Obviously cutting like this as opposed to cutting like this is going to make a huge difference, right? So it does give the appearance of it being sharper, but it's not actually sharpening. To sharpen your knife, you're actually having to shave some of the metal and take some of the metal off and redo that whole edge, right? Now, there are ways you can do it. I know some people probably send their knives in to get them professionally done, and I can't say that I don't recommend it. I myself just don't do it, because a lot of times when you send your knives in, what they're going to do is they're going to put it on a grinding wheel. They're going to put it on the same grinding wheel that they would sharpen your lawnmower blade. They're going to run it up and down that wheel, and it will get sharper. It's definitely getting sharper because it's knocking off some of the metal, getting down some of the new metal, and creating a new edge. My only problem with that is that you're taking away a lot of that knife as you do that, right? Because it's grinding down a lot more with that wheel turning than what it would be is if you did it by hand, okay? So I'm going to go through the process of how I sharpen my knife. The way I sharpen my knife is a series of stones. They're called whetstones, and you can get them on Amazon. You can also, if you Google them, they'll pop up. Otherwise, at the end of the video, I'll leave a link at the bottom of the page, and you guys can go on there, and find one that you like that's in your price range, okay? Now, I have a lot of whetstones because I've been doing this over years, so I have what I call my big boy whetstone. This is two-sided, and each side has a different grit. This is a more coarse grit, this is a little bit finer grit, but both of them are pretty coarse, okay? This is kind of my starting stone, or one of my starting stones at least, right? So if I get a brand new knife, I've never sharpened it before. The first time I ever sharpen it will be on this. And there's a reason, okay? And I'll get to that in just a moment. The next stone is this stone right here. You can see the two sides on this stone. Obviously, they're identified by the color, So you have a more coarse stone right here, and then a little bit finer stone right here, okay? Now, those are my two starter stones. So I'll start a knife with one of those two stones because of the coarseness, because they are very, very coarse, and they shave the metal down just a little bit faster than my finer stones. The reason why I start with those two stones is because most knives are coated with stainless steel And when you coat a knife with stainless steel is a hard metal. So to get down to the softer metals that are underneath, you have to get through that stainless steel layer. Once you get through that stainless steel layer, now you can really, really focus on getting a razor sharp edge. Okay? Once you get through that, these are the two stones that I use the most common at this point in time, right? So I'll show you this stone first. Again, this is a coarser stone. This right here, tell you right here, it's a 400 grit stone. And if you flip it over, this side right here, the bottom side, is a 1,000 grit stone. So it's a little bit finer. Just like sandpaper, what this does is you're going to be able to work out a lot of the knife sharpening on the coarse grit. And then you're going to polish it a little bit more with the fine grit, excuse me. Now, after that stone, I like to jump into this stone right here. This is my most used stone and the one that I love the most because this really does do a lot of the work. So this is a 3,000 and an 8,000. So it's still going to sharpen. This side is still going to sharpen, but it's going to knock out a lot of the inconsistencies. It's going to knock out some of those grooves left from the 400 grit or the 1,000 grit. It's going to polish that and really get it down to where it's a smooth surface. Now, underneath, the 8,000 grit is going to really, really polish that and give it a razor sharp edge. Okay, and I live by these tools. If you know me or you've talked to anybody about me, the one thing they'll tell you is that I keep sharp knives because I love to make intricate cuts, and in order to be able to make those intricate cuts, I gotta have a sharp knife. So I'm gonna go through the process of sharpening. So what I like to do is I like to start again with my 400 grit stone. All you'll need to sharpen your stone or to sharpen your knife, I always like to put mine on some type of cloth. You can use a towel. I have found out that the cabinet cloth works really well because it has this little bit of rubber matting, so it stops it from sliding. So that's my preferred thing. I know they come with stands and stuff like this. I prefer setting them down on the table and really getting up close and personal with them on this type of mat, right? The other thing you need, water. Doesn't matter if it's in a squeeze bottle or a cup or anything. I mean, you could literally use a planter, a planting fountain, and pour it on there. Just have water nearby and close because you want to keep your whetstone wet throughout the process of sharpening your knife. Now, you'll see on YouTube, there are some people that glide their knives. They're sharpening this way, then they'll come back and they'll do it the other way. That is possible. It's absolutely possible that you can get a sharp knife that way. But if you're a beginner or you haven't been sharpening knives for a very long time, I'm going to show you the process of where you should start, right? And that's just working the knife back and forth and moving over a little bit, back and forth, moving over a little bit, back and forth, moving over a little bit, and then flipping that knife. As you do this, you start going back and forth. So you're going to see what I like to tell people is you want about 2/4 underneath the base of your knife, right? So you want it angled up. So this is flat. You want it angled up about 2/4. So you could slide 2/4 under here. That's about 2/4. I myself, I go a little bit lower. So mine is about 1/4 to 1.25 because I really want to develop the most razor sharp edge that I can. The other thing that you want to remember as you're going back and forth is you want to keep count of how many times you've gone back and forth, and that'll make sense when we move over. Okay, so we're going to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. So already you can see that I'm developing that angle, developing that edge. You can see it by the way this knife, and I chose this knife in particular because this is a very temperamental knife. This knife is a carbon knife, so it colors and discolors very easy. But because it does that, when you sharpen it, it gets back to that polished metal look, and you can see it right there on that edge. Okay, now the reason why I said you wanted to keep count, you guys seeing I did 20 there. You know, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure my knife where I just was sharpening, and I want to put that much over, and I want to start the next row where I ended the last. I'm gonna do, again, I want to do 20, you know, because I did 20 on the first, I want to do 20 on this one as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so that's 20 strokes right there. Now, you can see, again, you can see where that metal is getting knocked off, where you're sharpening that knife. You know, you're gonna continue doing that until you do one full side of your knife. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so now you have it, right? Now at this point in time, what I will do is I will take and I will glide it the full length of the knife, still keeping my angle. And what that does is that just knocks down any high or low areas that you may have encountered while you were sharpening your knife. Now, if you can see that, you know, you can see that this knife, you know, now you can see where I knocked that metal and it's starting to get sharper, right? If you look at this side, you see it's not as sharp as it could be. You see that there is no edge. Okay, so we're gonna work the next side. Again, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, the reason why you want to do 20 on each side is because what you don't want is you don't want one edge to be different than the other, unless that's on purpose, and it does happen. There are some people that want one edge sharper than the other. Those are where you typically have a left or right-handed blade. You know, so if you wanted a left-handed blade, what you would do is you would do 20 on one side, 10 on the other side. Okay, if you want it right-handed, again, 20 on one side, 10 on the other side. You know, so what it's going to do is it's going to bezel that edge so that one edge is sharper than the other, and it splits. So you will see some knives like that. A lot of times there are sushi knives that are like that. Okay. Three, 4. All right. I'm going to wet my stone just a little bit more. All right, so now you can see at both sides, starting off, it's looking really good right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the stone. You see how aggressive that was. Now this one's going to take off a little less metal, you know, but it's really going to start getting that edge razor sharp. Again, 20. Now, just because I do 20 doesn't mean you have to do 20. You know, you're going to find your sweet spot. You're going to find if it takes you 20 or 30 or 50, you know, that's really going to depend on the knife. It's going to depend on the metal. It's going to depend on how rough condition your knife is. I sharpen mine on a regular basis, so, you know, mine tend to go a little bit faster, okay? All right. So I've used this stone, both sides of it. So I'm going to put this one away now. Now this is my polishing stone. It really is, you know, when you're getting down to the the fineness of really sharpening your stone, or your knife, I mean. So again, these stones are the ones that'll give you the razor sharp. Right now, in any kitchen, this knife would be considered sharp. Okay, I'm just taking it up another level because I really do like my knife to be insanely sharp, because it just makes for life to be a lot easier. My knife is an extension of me. So when I'm using it, I like it to work as good as it possibly can. It's like a runner. Runner has running shoes for a reason. And they have good running shoes at that, right? So you want to have good tools that are kept up the same way as athletes do. All right, so there we have. Let me spray this off. I want to show you guys the edge. Like you can really see the edge is really beginning to be pronounced, on both sides. Oh, you know what? We're going to flip it over. Now we're going to get down to really taking this to that razor sharp edge, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. So I do like to do a few extras when I get to my polishing stone, really to develop that sharpness and that blade and really take it to where I want it to go. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's beautifully sharp. Like it really is, So there you guys have the process, of really sharpening your knives. So normally most people would stop there. On most knives, I probably would stop here at this point in time, and I would go ahead and let them be what they were. Because this is a carbon knife, I want to polish it up just a little bit more. It really is. This is kind of my workhorse in the kitchen. A little bit shorter than your 8-inch knives. So this one is about 6.5. But I mean the edge that it holds and what I'm able to do with it because of the ability, of the size of it and stuff like that makes it one of those knives that I really go to, that I lean on. So I like to take care of it. But in taking care of it, I also have to make sure that I'm taking care of my stones to be able to take care of it. So if you have 2 stones, you can get 1. Like I said, I like to have a series of stone. At the end of them, what I like to do is I like to polish them up. So what I do is I rub them against each other. And what that does is it knocks off any high spots in the stone, or any low spots in the stone, so that you can continue making sure that your knives are well maintained and taken care of. Because if there are high spots or divots in the stone, then that's going to affect your knife. Okay. So being able to just go through, and knock off any of the highs and lows, get them back in some water and rinse them, and then putting them away properly. I always wrap them up in towels. That way I don't crack them or damage them or chip them or anything like that, in moving them. Okay, so right there is, like I said, where a lot of people would stop. If you give me a minute, I'm going to grab one more thing and I'm going to show you guys how I like to finish this knife, especially because it is a carbon knife, and it takes a lot. You have to take care of it a lot more than a normal knife, but it holds its edge and it takes care of me. One more thing that I like to do with this knife, like I said, it's kind of the same process, only this one is for the knife itself. This right here, some people call it the magic eraser, some people call it the knife buffer. I'll share the link with this as well. I have 2 of these. Both of them work exceptionally well. This one I've had a little bit longer. But what this does, is this is actually a super fine grit. And what it does is it literally it erases the discoloration on knives. So whether it's rust or the metal is discolored and gotten darker because it is a carbon knife, what it does is it gets rid of that. So you can kind of see the difference. I'm going to do one side, show you one side as opposed to the other, but you'll be able to see the difference, when you use this. All right, so this is the side where I didn't polish it. Okay, so you can take a look at that. And then if you look at this side, you can see there's a definite color difference. And again, what this does is it erases those those inconsistencies. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just the way the knife is. The metal itself ends up changing color just because it's wet, or it's had something acidic. So this is a knife that takes a little more care, but again, it is one of my favorite knives because of how it holds its edge. You have to be careful when polishing like this. Like what you don't want to do is go down and cut, because you just sharpen your knife, so it's going to be really sharp. Last thing I want to show you guys, okay, last thing I want to show you, hold on. Okay, so last thing I want to show you guys just saw, me sharpen my knife, you saw me polish it, everything else. Last thing I want to show you, because I know everybody wants to know how sharp is it really, so I really want to show you guys how sharp it is. And I know, like, I can show you other ways to actually test how sharp your knife is, but everybody wants to see this, like this is what everybody wants to see, is they want to see the paper test, like how does it cut through a piece of paper, right? And you guys can see. Okay. All right. There you got it. That's how sharp it is, okay?